The bus was crowded. People sat close to each other, eyes on their phones, lost in their thoughts. Some looked tired, others impatient. The air was thick with silence, except for the low hum of the engine and the occasional cough. Then, it happened. A little girl, no older than 7, stepped onto the bus. She held her mother's hand tightly. Her small shoes tapped softly on the floor as they walked toward an empty seat near the middle. The mother was carrying a few bags. Heavy bags. She looked tired, struggling to hold everything, while keeping a firm grip on her daughter's hand. No one moved to help. People saw but chose to look away. The little girl noticed. As soon as they sat down, the girl let go of her mother's hand. She turned, her bright eyes scanning the passengers. Then, she did something no one expected. She smiled, not just at her mother, but at everyone around her. A warm, honest smile. The kind that makes you stop for a second. The kind that feels rare. No one responded at first. People glanced at her, then quickly looked away. Some ignored her completely, but she didn't stop. She reached into her small backpack and pulled out a pack of cookies. She held them up and looked around, her face full of excitement. Then, in a clear, sweet voice, she asked, "Would you like one?" Silence. The bus, which had been filled with the usual noise of rustling bags and shifting seats, suddenly felt different. People turned their heads. They exchanged looks. No one knew what to say. One man sitting across from her hesitated. He was older, with deep lines on his face. He wore a suit, but looked exhausted. After a moment, he smiled slightly and nodded. The little girl beamed and handed him a cookie. He took it carefully, as if it were something precious. Then, something even stranger happened. Another person reached out, then another. The girl happily gave cookies to anyone who wanted one. She had only a few, but she shared them all. The silence changed. It was no longer cold. It felt warm. People started talking. They smiled at each other. Someone even laughed softly. The mood on the bus shifted as if a heavy cloud had lifted. The mother, watching all of this, had tears in her eyes. Not because her daughter had given away cookies, but because she had given something far greater: kindness. By the time the bus reached its next stop, something had changed in everyone. They stepped off with lighter hearts, with a small reminder that sometimes the smallest gestures can make the biggest difference. And all it took was a little girl with a smile and a handful of cookies to remind them that kindness is never wasted.